Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We're very honored to have you with us today. Beautiful day outside. Also appears to be an absolutely beautiful day in Washington, D.C. as tens of thousands or more people rally in support for Israel. We have seen a bipartisan political show. And folks, this does not happen all the time here in this country. But to see Speaker Mike Johnson take the stage with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries up there, Senator Joni Ernst speaking right now. A lot of people coming together for a common cause, which is to say, Israel, we support you. We are now welcomed by our next guest. Her name is Efrat Okev, and she is a dual U.S. and Israeli citizen. She is also a 20-year resident of St. Louis. And Efrat was at a pro-Palestinian protest that took place in the Delmar Loop maybe a couple weeks ago, and she had quite an experience there. Got a little media coverage here locally, but we wanted to give Efrat an opportunity to tell more of her story. Efrat, thank you so much for joining us here on the radio, also on Zoom on our Annie Frey YouTube channel. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Annie. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You know, the thing that I gathered from, I had heard about this, the protest in the Loop before I saw your story specifically being covered on Channel 5 KSDK. But the understanding that I had was you knew this pro-Palestinian, and you can alter however I'm phrasing this if you think that it needs to be, this pro-Palestinian protest taking place in the Loop.
Pro-Hamas, yeah.
Pro-Hamas. That's kind of what I wondered because it's hard to say if it needs to be differentiated. It seems like the pro-Palestinian people need to be doing the differentiating. So you heard about this protest. What did you decide to do?
So, as you said before, I was in an Israeli rally, and it was in Clayton. It was quiet, peaceful, but in my opinion, it was too quiet because Israeli Israeli values and U.S. values are aligned, and I didn't feel like someone hears this value. So me and a couple of people decided to check the other rally, and again, I call it pro-Hamas because since October 7, after Hamas had this terrible attack on Israel, I can't even, I don't even know if I can say it on the radio. Babies were burned, women were raped, 80% of the people were beheaded, and it's so hard still to identify the remains. And right after that, there were protests. Right after October 7, there were protests, and they call it pro-Palestinian. So I don't know how people can call it pro-Palestinian. I'm sorry. After what happened in October 7th.
Yeah, I understand that, Efrat. I want to know from you, as somebody who you have dual citizenship, like I said, in Israel, that there are innocent Palestinian people who are in harm's way right now, but the distinction is who's putting them in harm's way, because what these protests are saying is it's Israel. But how is Israel supposed to not defend itself against Hamas, who is hiding behind those Palestinian civilians?
Hiding behind civilians, use all this money that they get from the world instead of helping their population to build tunnel. They have the whole Gaza has 300 miles of tunnel. There is an in-ground Gaza for Hamas terrorists, while the people are on ground, right? So if Israel needs to defend itself, it is an existence war. If Israel needs to defend itself, Israel will attack terrorist targets, and terrorist targets are above, are basically behind and underneath hospitals, schools. So Israel does everything that it can in order to protect civilians. Either by phone calls, by flyers. We ask the people to move to the south. The south is safe. We target Hamas. So the problem is that Hamas even stopped their people from moving to the south because it served their point. If more people are killed, and it's sad, but we never even know how many people were killed because their numbers are not real numbers. We saw a lot of propaganda. We saw a lot of fake fake bodies. So they're doing everything that they can to harm their population. We're doing what we can to defend. Israel does what she can to defend the population of the state.
Efrat,
So
when you were
sad.
when you said you were at this pro-Israeli protest and then you heard about the pro-Palestinian. I'm curious how here in St. Louis, how did you catch wind of the pro-Hamas, as you call it, the Palestinian protest? How did you find out about it? And when you found out about it, what did you go do?
So we found about, I heard about it when I was in the Israeli rally, and we went there. And actually, before I even identify myself as an Israeli, I talked to people, and I just wanted to know what they know, and I asked, and I found people either ignorant or people that just feel of hate. And
What did
when
they say?
I start stating facts and ask questions. And when I say the fact, I was told, we don't want to talk to you. Bye bye. Or people say, don't talk to her. She will brainwash you.
Mm.
And again, I want people to know the truth. What do they support? I encourage people to read all the people that are in these rallies, read Hamas charter, see what they support. They don't, they don't support any free of anything. Um, Women are not treated well, LGBT are not treated well. So when I see these people calling for freedom,
Mm.
it's like the world is upside down. So these are not the values I believe. I didn't feel in America. I'm like, is this what's going on? That was very sad.
Yeah.
So
Efrat Okev is joining us right now. She's a dual U.S. and Israeli citizen, a 20-year resident of St. Louis, and found herself at a couple of rallies, a pro-Israeli rally, Palestinian, as she refers to it, a pro-Hamas, which I agree with that sentiment, rally. Um, give me some examples of truths that you shared with them and what was their reality? How do they see things? What do they think that they know?
So, first of all, two things that they chant on the rally is from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. This statement, first of all, they didn't know what river. So, river is Jordan River.
They
The
don't
sea is
know
the
the river?
Mediterranean Sea.
They don't know
They
the
didn't.
river.
They couldn't tell me the name of the river. They chanted. They couldn't tell me. So this is basically the borders of Israel. If you chant the statement, you mean the elimination of Israel. They showed me map, and I told them, so you mean this is the elimination of Israel? Some of them told me yes. They said yes. Israel. Start telling me about occupied state. I told them Israel left Gaza, but Israel occupied from who? And they start telling me about Palestine. I said, was there even a Palestine state before? Who was the president? What was the currency? They could not tell me anything. There was no Palestine state. So they don't know. They don't know a lot of things.
But
They
they're
didn't even know. The one thing that I told them, do you know what happened in October 7th? So I heard from female telling me that nothing happened. Biden lied. That's what I heard. And at this moment, I'm like, these people live in a different world,
yeah.
and something needs to be done because this is not right. This is not right.
Efrat, did you get a sense of where they get their information and their influence from? Because it takes a lot of passion and motivation to get yourself up and go participate in a protest and be emotionally invested that way. You have to be passionate and care about the thing that you're protesting from. If their reality is so different than our understanding, do you have a sense of where they're getting influenced from or their information from?
I can only guess, and I guess it's social media, and I would say that radical Muslims, there are a lot of them, more than so. I would say it's social media, and when people hear something, you know what happens in social media, you hear something and there's an algorithm that fits you with
Yeah.
what you want to hear. So I think these people here are brainwashed. Another thing I would like to say about the hate in the Gaza population, since they're little kids, what you find in school is basically their agenda is to kill Jews, and the kids were interviewed. Their agenda are to be heroes by killing Jews. Um, my Kampf, the Hitler book,
Hmm.
is translated to Arabic and found in these schools. So when you have a little kid hears that, what do you think happened after 20 years?
Yeah.
Everything he wants is to go to the sky and kill as much as he can. So
So speaking,
this is
yeah,
really bad.
it's really it's incredibly tragic to know that this is the full existence of people's understanding and that it is so off from what reality is. We're speaking right now with Efrat Okev, and she's a dual U.S. citizen and Israeli citizen. She's a 20-year resident of St. Louis. So I want to get back to the rally that you went to at the Delmar Loop. You showed up. The story became you brought an Israeli flag, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But it's interesting to hear you talking about the discussions that you had, that you tried to talk to these people first and it just was not translating. At what point did you determine, I'm going to show this Israeli flag that I have to these people who are obviously clearly protesting against, I mean, really, it's as simple as saying the existence of Jews in some cases.
So I talked to people before the rally started when I was walking in the loop, and I saw people with signs. So I start talking. But once the rally started, then I stood with my flag. And again, it's free speech. I have the right
Yeah.
to say in a nice way what I want to say. I just want to tell you, Annie, that I'm not the only one who attacked. I'm probably the first one who was attacked with a flag. But every time I have a friend who did this twice after me, they are not willing to hear something else. So it's their world and it's their idea, and they're just shut down to anything else.
Mm.
And that's not the land of freedom.
No.
That's not what we stand for.
So they took your flag from you, and I saw some video of. My recollection is it was a woman who took the flag from you and threw it on the ground and was stomping on it. You're so spot on when you talk about our First Amendment rights as Americans and the free speech that they have the right to go out and say the things they're saying, and you have the right to show up and say, "No, you're wrong. This is what is right." And that discussion is what hopefully gets us to a resolution. Anytime we get to the point where one side is no longer allowed to speak, we've got trouble. What happened after they took their flag and it got a little physical?
Um, when they took the flag, I went to the police. I tried to file a report. After that, I went back to the same location and I stood without the flag. I had people taking photos of me, videos, telling, kill Israel, we'll get you. Little kids that were shouting at me. And when I see a 6-year-old shouting at me, I'm much older than
Yeah.
yeah, my kids are older than 6-year-old. How will I even react to this kid? Why to teach these people so much hate? So I think that at this moment, I didn't understand. When I see the video, I understood that I put myself in a situation that is not really safe. I thought it's safe because I'm in America, but when I saw them surrounding me, I said this, that could have ended in a different way. And I'm sorry. I feel bad that they're chanting for something. They have their own reality. I feel bad that you can't say anything and they're so vocal, and it's like bullying.
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah, it is. It's almost it's worse than bullying. And I'm glad that you did walk out of there safely because we know of stories where people who were holding Israeli flags did not walk away safely. Before we
yeah.
let you go, Efrat, I want to ask you about the climate here in St. Louis, because I think that it's easy for people who can distance themselves from turning the news on the television or seeing it in their social media feeds. You can, because it is, I don't need to explain this to you. You know more than anybody. It is very, very hard to consume some of these stories. As a mother myself, I struggle with it. It's important to know what's going on, but it's difficult. And people can choose to try to limit their exposure to it and think that this is, a whole ocean away from us here. But I want you to speak to the climate right now for Jewish people here in the Midwest and encourage people listening right now about what they can do to be aware. I think in your KSDK report you talked about you wish people would do more research and understand more about what's going on. Tell us from your firsthand experience what people need to know about the St. Louis area, the Midwest area, that this, if it is, an issue here as well as an ocean away.
Um, when I say they need to know more, is that they need to know what is this rally about? What are these protesters? They're not pro-Palestinian. They're against freedom. They're against free world. They're anti-Semitism, and they call for the destruction of Israel. Another chant that I want to tell you is that I heard is that when people are occupied, um, they said when people are occupied, resistance is justified. So this was, first of all, we already talked that there was no occupation because Israel left Gaza in 2005. And since then we get only rockets. Israel gets only rockets instead of peace. And then to justify resistance, what do they call resistance? The attack on October 7 was not a resistance, was just an evil thing to do. So this is not resistance. So I want people to really understand that understand the history, understand why this is happening. We are in a war, a sad war, and we didn't start it, but we will finish it and we will win. So when someone comes to attack you, you have to stand for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the actual defending of your existence is innegotiable. And I think, Efrat, I really appreciate you coming on here. I know that you probably didn't find yourself heading towards doing a lot of local media, but your voice is important. And I know there are a lot of, talking heads that make their living coming on and having these types of opinions that they articulate about all these types of issues. But you being there on the ground and, God bless you for using your American right to free speech and being willing to stand up against hate that exists here. I'm sorry that you experienced that. I'm glad that you were able to come out safely. And I'm very grateful that you were willing to share your story with us here on our show today.
Thank you, Annie. Thanks a lot.
Of course. Stay safe. Efrat Okev,
Okay.
a dual United States and Israeli citizen, 20-year resident of St. Louis. It's really quite a story. And I've heard from my Jewish friends that, they may not have had that same experience, but they have their head on a swivel. Maybe there's been some remarks, some comments, some, graffiti or notes that are left, and it's just making people uncomfortable. And it is here, and we do need to be aware of it. Great conversation with Efrat there. Grateful that she was willing to give us her time.